And I was like, all right, I better get up and get ready. Um, but
At first, I just thought people couldn't financially justify hiring a clown anymore. Then I started blaming the media for portraying my people as bloodthirsty murderers, cult members, or man eating space aliens. Of course, the 2016 clown sightings didn't help. Ronald was the first to go. They just took him away. And we stayed silent. Because that's when the book appeared. What new form of clown bigotry was this, I thought? Hadn't my people suffered enough? My clown act was failing because people just weren't taking it seriously. And once they fired me from the circus, I tried suing them for funfair dismissal. My unicycle rusted, and my balls gathered dust. I used to make kids scream with laughter. So much that I could see the tears of joy running down their faces. And then it just stopped. I was so upset that I started eating the banana cream pies instead of throwing them in people's faces. I gained so much weight that summer. I avoided it for a while, but the book's front cover was just so eye-catching, and it was so readily available on Amazon, that I gave in and finally read the thing. I didn't even know what the Nephilim were. Luckily, the author spent the first half of the book concisely explaining the biblical history to me in an easy-to-understand manner, so that wasn't really a problem for long. That's when I read the rest of the book and realized that being a clown is no joke. Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Come on in, sit on down. It's time for another episode of the Truther Therapy Sessions, episode 73. It's been over a month since I've done one of these, and my last one was with Codega's Codex of Curiosities as a guest on here. And yeah, it was a long time ago because I've had a baby, I've been on paternity, I've been taking a break, having a rest, and it's time to pick this old podcast back up and carry on. And what a topic we have to discuss today. Something I'm, once again, late to the game discussing, as I always am with most topics, but better late than never, shall we say. And this one is still rolling. This one is having ripple effects since its original happening, shall we say, when it was scheduled and when it kicked off. And it's still having a major effect on the conspiracy movement even now. Whether those effects are valid or not, we're going to discuss today, and I'm going to get a bit of a multi-panel guest show going and get multiple people on, and I've got who I could get in the very small amount of time I have had to get them today, and you'll see some regular faces, some familiar voices, special guests along the way, and obviously you guys as well can share your opinion on all of this in the chat, and we'll be responding to you too. So yes, without further ado, my first guest and co-host for the day is Vinny B. Vinny, are you there? Can you hear me?
yes, Paul, great to be here. Much love to you and your audience.
Excellent. Let me just get the screen shared. There it is.
And congratulations on the baby. That is a big thing. That's super important. Obviously these people in charge don't want us having children. So the fact that, anybody who does, that's a good thing. It's something to be happy about, and it's a big thing. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. There's the thing I think a lot of people forget that we're up against a death cult. And
Yes.
they don't want us reproducing, and they'll do everything they can to convince us that that's a bad idea. And I'm not buying it. I'm
Hmm.
not falling for that. so I'm sticking with
Yep.
let's have more kids.
Well,
Let's yeah.
congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank you. Thank
Definitely
you.
important.
I appreciate it. So, like I said, we were talking off air just a little bit there before we began, and we do have some guests which may be darting in and out because of time sensitivity and when they're available. And I'm still waiting on somebody who may be turning up at any moment, but maybe not. Maybe they think it's an hour from now because I think, what if they're Central Time? I don't know. We'll find out. But in the meantime, Vinny, you've been itching to discuss this topic, and you emailed me not long after it happened, to be honest. And this is a bit of a groundwork. I heard about this thing maybe about a month before it happened. I had a guest on my channel, John LeBon, and he was coming on to discuss with me just anything and anything conspiracy related. But he used to be a member of like the old school round table flat earthers when it first began. And he kind of got ostracized by them because he started getting skeptical. And he was saying like, look, guys, I'm with you, that things are weird, but this model's ridiculous, is basically what he said. That was always, and that was always his attitude. So he became like the world's leading skeptic on this idea, and he started going off on one to kind of saying those guys are a cult. Everyone who's talking in this group that I joined, they have this cult mentality, and they're not really willing to look at evidence. Is what he kind of came. That was his conclusion. And again,
that's my conclusion too. Unfortunately,
funnily enough, and I thought it was interesting, because he was telling me about this. Will Duffy, that was his name, wasn't it? Yeah, he was telling me about this guy he just had on his show like a month ago, interviewing, saying this guy's setting up a trip to Antarctica, man, and he's put a call out for the flat earthers to join him along with globe earthers, and none of the flat earthers are taking up the offer. That's what my last update a month ago was. None of the flat earthers are saying yes or they'll go. Okay, and Will Duffy was like trying to get them to go and say, "Good, this is it. Let's do this. Let's go do this final experiment," And I'll say, "Oh, that sounds exciting. Keep me up to date." The next thing I know, a month later, they're just there. They're all there already, and I'm like, "That was quick.
Yeah.
How did they get that all together so fast?" You know what I mean? So the whole thing for me was a bit weird because last I heard, they hadn't even had anybody from the flat Earth side who was going to agree to go with them. And I was like,
finally, Jaron and Whitsitt went.
Yeah, from what I saw on the website,
I'm surprised Dave didn't go.
But... Well, the thing is, I looked at the website. The list of globe earthers was far bigger than the tiny list of flat earthers that went. And I said to John, I said, "Look, John, I'm a biblical cosmologist. Okay, I don't claim to know the model, the shape of the earth. I wasn't there when God laid the foundations of the earth. So who am I to even think I could comprehend His creation from that perspective, from my tiny down here perspective?" I said, "But whatever they're going to do down there in Antarctica, it ain't proving anything to do with the globe being true." Exactly. That was my bottom line. I said, I don't know what they'll see. Maybe they'll see a 24-hour sun. Even if
that was to discredit the circle dish. And I'm sure you and your audience that remembers me, I've said this even on your show. I've been saying it on Killer Priest. I told Dave Weiss years ago. I told Eric Dubé. I told all these guys. I told Whitsitt Gets It. All these people I've done shows with. I have them in my phone. None of them will talk to me now. I tried to call Whitsitt right after when he came back and was getting attacked by everybody. He won't respond. Dave responded and was still trying to stick with. He shows me. He goes, "Oh, well, did you check out this thing?" And then they're showing me this video of Joe Hanvey, who I never heard before. And all of a sudden I see him and Eric Dubé are like, "Oh yeah, look, this explains it, and it's still a circle dish." And I spent about 5 minutes watching it, and I said, "Dave, I could discredit this. This does not prove a circle dish. Why are you guys so stuck to this circle dish?" And Dave was like, "Well, you need to make a better model." I says, "Well, Dave, I did the best I can. Why don't you work with me?" No response. Stops talking to me. Eric Dubé, no response again. Bro Sanchez is the only one. Bro Sanchez called me up and was like, "Vinny," that was the show I was telling you about that I went on to talk about Millennial Kingdom and your show. I brought up your channel and this and that. And he was the only one. He called me up. He said, "Vinny, you were right." He said, "I didn't understand when you came on, and I'm really sorry, but you were trying to warn us." And I said, "Yes, this is what I've been telling you all, that at some point they were going to expose your model by pointing out there is a 24-hour sun in Antarctica." Now, you all laughed at me, and every bit of evidence I've tried to give for years is saying, "You've never been there." Well, I'm glad. To be honest, I'm happy that Jaron and Whitsitt went down there and saw it. Now, I'm not happy what's happening to Flat Earth community now. But I'm happy that the truth is out because now we could stop avoiding that and we could actually move forward, I'm hoping. But it's really sad to see that like Dave Weiss got popular because he worked on Jared's show. That's where he started off. He was working with Jared for 10 years.
Mm.
Witsi gets it also. And then you're going to sit there and say that they were in a green screen studio? Like these are people you've worked with for 10 years. Like you don't even trust them? To me, it's like, and Eric Dubay. And then the other thing I love is you got Eric Dubay and these guys. So you guys get exposed, your model gets exposed, and then 2 days later, you post some guy, Joe Hanvey's video, and then you don't even admit that, like, they're trying to act like that they didn't get discredited. Like, they're still trying to push. Now Dubay is like, oh, well, the 24 hour. Bro, you never said that you constantly said there was no 24-hour sun. And you can't even admit that you were wrong. That's a red flag to me. That's ego. That's pride. I'm not going to call people shills. I always say that unless I have some physical evidence, I'm not calling someone a paid agent. It could just be pride and ego. But for whatever reason, it could be that, Dave, you got this app that you make a lot of money on that has the circle dish. And what are you going to do now? Are you going to take it down? He hasn't. Everybody's still paying for a thing that was discredited. So, I'm not going to call these people shills like it seems like they're all doing to each other, especially Dubay. Dubay, basically, everybody's a shill except for Dubay. I just find this really weird and it's upsetting to me. Because to me, like flat earthers are like, you got to be the most open-minded people to get to where we're at, to, even be open-minded to look into it and then understand it. But to see so many flat earthers that I use the term full retard. Like, I love that Tropic Thunder movie. I bring that clip up. Like, you never go full retard. And another guy I want to bring up, I'm going to call out because they're all attacking me and don't want to talk to me anyway now, is Tyler, the fittest flat earther. Like, that was the guy who heard me on your show and was telling people, like, best show, you got to get him on your show. And Tyler, the fittest flat earther, all these guys, they're just like, just coming up with crazy theories. They don't want to like even talk to me about a different model. And it's like, I don't understand. If you really wanted the truth, why wouldn't you want to have a discussion with someone that's saying, hey, I could answer all those questions that your model isn't. Your model can't answer a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, period. You can't explain how the stars are going the opposite direction, are curving to the south past the equator. You can't do that on a circle dish. There's certain things that you can't do. And the book, and people like, oh, your model. Let me just say, it's not my model. I didn't create the model. The model, I call it, is the Book of Enoch. And it was really Roman from Square Earth Cosmology who created those models. And we're trying to base it off a biblical model. That's where I'm coming from. It's not Vinny's model. I didn't just make up a model. I'm trying to make a biblical model. And I got scripture and things that we can get into later to where I could explain how it's talking about corners and how it's square and how the sun's coming out of the east, setting in the west, like Enoch's talking about. I get into all that. But it's really sad that I'm watching all of them just attack each other and then like not want to listen to an alternative theory. Like, I feel like we need to move forward. And like you said, now most of us flat earthers, we didn't need that experiment. That experiment didn't make us say, oh, there's a 24-hour sun, I'm on a ball. Now, maybe Jaren, that's going to happen too, but most of us, we ain't thinking like that. We still know it's flat. All we're saying is that model's wrong. That's all it's saying. And I don't know why so many people, like you said, that guy before, where he was part of the early Flat Earth Society, and it's like a cult. That's what it seems like to me at this point. When you got like Tyler, the fittest flat earther, and these people, they're getting so mad and they're just like, it seems like a cult. Like, you can't let go of this. You know what I mean? To where now you're going to just dig and make it like they were in a green screen and just anything to like, well, there's, a 0.1%, like Dave Weiss says, that they could have faked it. Like, come on, man. Like, don't go full retard. Like, we have discernment and we question things. Okay. But you can't just say everything that you hear is a lie. And that's part of what's going on in this world. The one thing Alex Jones got right is there's information wars. That is what this is about. We're in the age of information wars and fake news. And they're bombarding us with all this stuff. So people, we don't know what to believe after a while. So then after a while, you got these people that are going full retard, in my opinion, and just don't believe anything. You got Tyler the Fittest Flat Earther showing pictures of Donald Trump as Elvis Presley. Bro, that's full retard. That's not helping us look credible, in my opinion. That's making us look laughable. Joe Hanvey's video that model is discredited in a few minutes. Then they tried to show this guy Lindsay doing a thing. You could sit there watching him for an hour talk. You walk away with, I still have no idea what the hell he's talking about. You didn't prove that it's a circle dish. So my cry and plea to all the flat earthers is, why do we feel so attached to this circle dish? Okay, we're still flat earthers. It's just that model can't work, like some of us have been pointing out for a while. And now the time is here. And this isn't to where, like I said, most flat earthers aren't going to go back to a ball. But what it's doing is the other people, the people that are newer or people that would have been interested, they're seeing this and they're like, flat earthers are a joke. Look, flat earthers went down there and they got discredited. This is hurting the movement. This is definitely hurting the movement. So to me, I think it's better that we accept reality, that there is a 24-hour sun and all these things are real and that model's wrong. So we could get past that. And maybe people would be willing to work with me and others and we could get an actual really biblical model that could explain everything. And, that's why I was really itching to get to you, because I feel like this is an important time, especially for flat earth. And another thing I wrote down I wanted to bring up to you is, I love how you talk about 2025 and the ascended masters. This is something I've been saying for a long time, that the year that the chaos and everything was coming in the year 2025. I know you've brought up Alice Bailey and these ascended masters. And to me, this is the year, man. This is the year where it's just going to be total chaos everywhere. And it's funny that this happened right at the beginning of 2025 also, that they exposed the flat earth model. This is going to be a crazy year. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good. And I think you should, talk about that a lot and talk about the Alice Bailey and these ascended masters. I think it's a great job you bringing that up, and that's important for people. But yeah, this is going to be a big year, and it's starting out with a bang already. We got these crazy fires that just started in LA. Shout out to Killer Priest. I hit him up this morning to make sure he's okay. They got these crazy fires in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Again, cars burning, but trees aren't. Sounds like directed energy. Sounds like what happened in Hawaii and possibly 9/11, where you got cars burning up, but trees don't. Seems weird.
Yeah.
Well. So shout out to everyone in LA. God bless and good luck.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're praying for them.
It's crazy.
It looks rough. I saw images of that earlier today.
Yeah.
It's just spreading like crazy, and you can see the civilization next to the fire. It's like right next door. This isn't in the middle of nowhere.
It's by LA and stuff.
It's gonna destroy people's homes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be an insane year, and way to start it off by exposing the circle dish and causing all this infighting and name calling going on now in the flat earth community.
See, I've never been satisfied with that model myself. The UN model.
I remember you saying that to me when I brought this up.
It does seem too simplistic. It seems like it's there to kind of make us look a bit dumb. And from what I witnessed throughout my decade and a half, kind of looking into this culture now, and again talking with characters who were involved, like John the Bon, trying to confirm what I thought at the time. What was it, like 2014, 16 era? Something like that. It was around that time, or 2016 onwards, where the flat earth community became a thing on YouTube.
2016, I feel like.
Yeah, that's when it was like its peak. Up. When it's its peak, wasn't it? And it was all the channels were coming together to like have big group discussions and this type of thing. And I was watching it, and I couldn't help but feel like this is. I'm getting the ick. That's the only way to describe
because
it
got big, right? And you thought that it would never get big, right?
It's not that. It's the people who were doing it. None of them were Christian, first of all. That's
what I've brought up. It's funny, Eric Dubay and all these people that are New Agers.
Yeah.
Not biblical.
They always end up going with like a simulation theory type option or something. They had Rob Skiba out there, who was legitimately going out there doing his own experiments, trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? He was like, whatever it is, it's not what NASA's telling us. It's kind of what he thought, you know. And I don't think he like stuck to a model particularly, though he had a good go at trying to like talking about the tent in the wilderness and the shape of that being like a dome type thing. And you know, he made his own type of models and way of doing it roughly. And I was always of the mind, look, I can't possibly know what the shape of the Earth is from my perspective. I just know it's not what NASA's telling us. I know there's too much evidence to prove they have lied through their teeth at every corner and every turn. It's not vast infinite space and multiple universes and planets, and like we're like an insignificant tiny little mold-covered rock or something like that in the midst of it all. It's not that. We are actually far bigger than we know. We are more important than we know. It's an enclosed system. That much is clear. Whatever that is.
And we're not moving.
Yeah.
Those three things we could prove.
It's geocentric is another way to describe it in some way, isn't it? It's something like that, you know. And but I never liked these people who were like so certain. It's like, no, it's this way. And if you don't agree with me, you're a shill. And it's kind of when it's my way or the highway type of attitude start appearing, I'm always like, right, I'm out. You're on my list.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? Like it's like, and I don't want to say that they're shill. It could just again be ego and pride or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Perhaps. And like I said, I agree with you. When this happened, and I was telling John, it says, look, whatever Will discovers down there, it doesn't mean we're on a ball. It does not mean that, you know, not in the slightest. Like, and it's not the final experiment of anything. That name is disingenuous, really, you know. And it's
exactly. That's another thing. Is like they should have said from the beginning. These Whitsitt and Jaron from the beginning should have said, "Okay, we're coming down to see. We keep saying there's no 24-hour sun. We want to see if there is, but even if there is one, it does not prove that we're on a globe."
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't go in that. That's why. Like to me, this is like this was used to make flat Earth look bad. That's what this was there to do, was to discredit flat Earth.
The whole flat
Earth,
accomplished it. Was it the Flat Earth Society, I think, was created to make flat like anyone who questions the validity of the globe model to look stupid. I always thought it was there as a straw man for people to attack and say, aren't these people crazy? These crazy conspiracies, look at these ridiculous claims they're making, aren't they stupid and, like I said, retarded? That's what the seculars will call us, because you don't believe we're on a globe through space, and these are your leaders. Like, no, like you're all absolute morons. Like, and yeah, they make us look stupid, and that's they do this throughout a lot of things in the conspiracy culture. They put someone in whatever topic it is. There's always a topic, but they'll insert somebody who starts getting big discussing that specific topic, and then out of left field, they'll attach something stupid to it, something ridiculous, something so out there. It's kind of like you have just ruined this entire topic.
Like Donald Trump is Elvis Presley, Tyler the fittest flat earther.
That's a new one. I did see the thumbnail for that, you know. I never watched the video, but
Well, I guess he's huge on TikTok. Me, I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on anything. I was thrown off everything in 2012. I'm not on anything other than some stuff on YouTube for the past couple of years.
That's it. Well, a lot of people like sit in the chat are like, "Oh my god, is Understanding Conspiracy a flat earther?" You got the shills in there already, like you're like, and this thing has done it for them. It's given something to latch onto. It's like, there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Don't you know it's all been proven wrong now? Isn't it time to just get over it and move on? You were wrong. Flat earthers are wrong. You know, the test has been done. It's kind of, oh, you're always moving the goalpost, aren't you? They'll say.
Oh, now you got to come up with a new model, right? And they're gonna. Looks bad. And then when I'm watching Dave and Eric and these people not admit that they were wrong and just come up with worse stuff, in my opinion, it looks really bad. And you know, why I felt it was important to talk to someone like you, who's all about understand conspiracy, and we see so much alike. You and your audience are great. So I felt like, you know, I've been wanting to talk about this with you.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, thanks for that. So do you want to explain to the audience then what you think the model actually is? Because if that model doesn't work and it falls short and can be dismantled, well, we need to find something close to something kind of like a model that we can point to. Well, what do you have? How did you glean from Enoch?
Okay. Well, the first thing is, you know, a lot of people will hit me with there's one quote in the Bible with Isaiah where it talks about God sits upon the circle. So people want to say that's their proof of a circle dish. But I like to break down words, and honestly, I wasn't prepared for that one, but I remember it didn't necessarily mean like he's sitting upon a circle. It was more like encircling the area, something like that. Uh, the Chinese and some people did think that heaven was like a circle, but none of them thought the earth was flat. I mean, was a circle dish. I've even shown in some of the videos that the Chinese, up into the 1600s, when the Jesuits came, they were reporting back to Rome saying the Chinese believed the earth is square and flat. Square and flat is what these people thought. In the Bible, there's numerous verses where it talks about corners. Okay. Uh, if you go into the Greeks, the Greeks coordinates where the original translation, um, the King James version will say quarters. So some people are like, oh, quarters, circle dish. But there's another verse, even in the King James, which I think is Revelation 7, where he's talking about, it says the word corners. Uh, Basically, every Bible, the word was corner. It wasn't quarters, it was corner. Now, a corner, if people need to look up the definition, a corner is when two straight like walls like converge and you have a corner. Think of the room you're in right now. If I said the corner, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. The corner. All right. They talked about heavens. I mean, the at the corners that they were like these mountains and the angels and the winds. They're talking about four corners. There's there's no corners on a circle dish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being honest there. Uh, the other thing that got me is when you talk about this model, again, this isn't my model. I'm trying to understand a biblical model, and the Book of Enoch I do use a lot. And Square Earth Cosmology, Roman, who's really like way better at this than me, but he stopped doing shows like 5, 6 years ago. So I've been like the only guy like trying to talk about this stuff, but he's way better. He wrote books and everything. Um, but one of the things that got me is where it's talking about, if people want to know, it's like the Book of Enoch, chapter 72. He's talking about the sun coming out of the eastern portals. The sun, the stars, and everything are going through a portal, going to the west, and goes through a portal. And then it's coming back out on the other side. Okay. Like Pac-Man. I don't know what else to explain it. People are, oh, Pac-Man, you're a shill. I don't know what else to explain. This is a supernatural, like 4-dimensional place while everybody's stuck in like this 3D world. It's so hard. Like, that's why it's been so hard for me for years to try to like explain this, because it's more of like, it's supernatural where we're at. It's a supernatural like reality for us. But to me, when I'm reading the Bible and the Book of Enoch and these stuff where there's some people talking about descriptions, it's talking about the sun coming from the east and the west, and that these are geographical locations. They're locations. They're not directions. It's not if you're here, you just go this way. No, locations, east and west. Sun comes out of here. Why is Japan called the rising sun? On a circle dish, you just pick this one spot and say that's where the sun comes out. No, it sets over there. But you can on a square, right? Or a rectangle, like a map,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why is every map we look at a square or rectangle? Every map we look at.
Mm-hmm.
Another great thing, this one's a killer to me. This one right here should get people to think too. It's called the UTM, Universal Topography Mapping. This is military grid maps. This is what the military uses. A square earth. It is squares inside of squares inside of squares. The whole thing is square. So the US military and all the militaries use a square grid. That can't work on a circle dish. And that can't work on a globe, obviously, either. So why is the military and everybody who knows that, who has to have this stuff right? If you're going to launch rockets and this, you need to know this stuff. They're all using the UTM. People go look it up if you don't believe me. UTM, military grid maps. I don't know if you want to bring it up or anything, but it's called the UTM maps. Military uses it. It's all squares. This place is a square or a rectangle. How do we have the 24-hour sun in the north and the south? Okay. Well, it's just closer to the foundation. See, this is where it gets a little complicated and hard for me to explain because we're talking about our perspective and light, and there's things that are bending, there's light bending and curving, which will give you the illusions of certain things, but it's actually going in straight lines. The light is being pulled to the foundations of heaven is the best and most simple way I could explain it. That's why if you're in the southern hemisphere, it looks like the sun is coming from the South Pole, like from the south. That's why they were able to trick people. They were on a ball because what they're looking at, they're saying, oh, it looks like it's because that's also what Whitsitt and these guys saw down there. It wasn't just a 24-hour sun. They're also like it's circling around the South Pole. There is no South Pole, but that's what it looks like to them. It's not circling the other way, which it would have to be on a circle dish. But that's not what you see in the southern hemisphere. So it's an illusion again. It looks like it's circling around a southern pole, but it's not. It's actually just a straight line, and it's just the closest to the southern. That's why that area is going to get 24 hours of sunlight, and we're getting 24 hours of darkness on the other side in the north.
Mm.
We're getting the illusions of it curving, and that is just because of perspective and the way light and things work. And like I said, this is supernatural. I can't explain how the foundations of the heavens work really, but we're coming up with theories. And like I said, this guy has done great work. You guys go check him out, Square Earth Cosmology. He's supposed to be coming out with another book soon. He told me hit him up for New Year's. The New Year is in March 21st. It's not January 1st. So March 21st, I'll get to talk to him on the real New Year, and hopefully I could get Roman doing stuff because he could do a way better job than me. I feel dumb compared to him and some other people, but I'm doing the best I can while him and others aren't talking about this. But yeah, it's basically you're getting the appearance of it pulling towards the south or the north, depending on where you're at. Another thing is if you're at the equator, everything's going in a straight line. You can't have that on a circle dish. It's that simple. Another thing why you can't have on a circle dish. And that is what you see at the equator. See, these are all things that they saw and were able to get people to create this ball model. And it works. That's the thing. Flat earthers, we got to accept the fact that they have a model that we were all taught and we believed. Why? Because they had the answers for everything. They could explain. Oh, well, there's a 24 hour, it wobbles, it does this, it does that. Oh, and they have all the answers to explain it. But when we have a circle dish that can't explain stuff, that's not a good look. You know what I'm saying? They have so for the average person who doesn't know, there's a model that has answers, and there's a model that can't have it, that doesn't have answers. What do you think the average person looking into this is going to do? They're going to say, those people are crazy. These people are making predictions and all their predictions are right. They got the sun patterns right. They got the star they got all the answers. So that's why I think it is important. Again, this isn't a salvation thing like millennial kingdom and this and that we always bring up. It's not salvation issue, the shape of the earth, but it does mean something, especially to us who want to expose the ball and get people into a flat earth. I think it is important we try to come up with a model. It's not a salvation issue. And like you said, we might not ever be smart enough to come up with the complete and answer everything. But I think we could come up with, I think Roman has, Square Earth Cosmology has, and what I put in my video, the Book of Enoch, for Vinny B planting seeds on my channel. So, I mean, on that, you could see some of this, what I'm talking about. We could explain how the stars, everything works on that model. And like I said, all the proof I see is that it's square. The UTM military grid maps.
Yeah,
so
well,
yeah,
we've just been called by Carlo in the chat an op. We're in operation. Apparently they're a bit upset that someone's upset that you're not pointing out the obvious shillery that was going on in Antarctica with the drone, which aren't legally allowed there, and the faking of the breath. What's your take on all that kind of stuff?
Well, like I said, I've worked with Wizard. I've never worked with Jaron. He doesn't ever want to talk to me for years for whatever reason. Yeah, no, I think you guys are stretching, man. I don't like, who do you need to go down there? Like, if Dave would have went or Debate would have went, you would probably say the same thing. If me and you, Paul, went there and said it, there would be the people who would say you guys are shills because you don't want to let go of this circle dish. Whoever's saying that, I don't know why you're married to this image, but you're a cult follower and you're not doing your own thinking. You're going full retard by saying everything is a lie that doesn't fit into what you want to believe. Okay, if you want to go there and say that this stuff was faked and now flat earthers are faking it, then I don't know what else to say other than good luck. Because to me, you're never going to believe anything. And that's what I was saying earlier. We're in an information war filled with deception and lies. And it's got everybody to the point where everything, even the things we see or people we know, we don't even believe. Uh, like Dave Weiss, you're friends with these guys, and Dave's making videos that it's green screen and Vape Gate, right? With his vape and this and that. I've listened to Witsit as explained it all. That guy probably hasn't listened to Witsit explain it, and I thought it was fair. I thought what he was saying made sense. I don't think they faked it. I
I
don't
think
think
there's a
they.
I think there's a tendency for a lot of people when when something odd happens or what seems dishonest. There is this, I don't know what it is. It's like they
We
must.
don't trust nothing no more.
It's like they must
we,
be a shill. They must be controlled opposition. They must be
yeah,
deceivers out there working for Satan himself. And that does seem to be the go-to. And when we're here now, not saying that, assuming ignorance before malevolence, which is what I've always done, I'm going to assume they're just stupid, not evil. That's usually the best way to
yeah,
do it. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
otherwise, you're just going to be looking for shills under every rock and paranoid around every
That's what I
corner.
mean.
You know, and I think they're just mad that you haven't done what they've done, which is just say, no, they're a shill, they're evil. Why aren't you calling them out? You must be in operation too because you're not saying what I'm saying. It's kind of, come on, get more three-dimensional. Like,
Yeah,
think people are people. People are complicated. All right, it's
you,
not that simple.
whoever that person is, also, you need to understand. I've been someone for since 2016 saying this. I didn't need the final experiment to know that there was I already have known this. I've already discredited the circle dish in many ways, not just 24-hour sun. Like I said, you can't have a straight line at the equator with the stars. You can't have things going in the opposite direction, curving to the South Pole. You can't have that on a circle dish. And it's not biblical, in my opinion. You don't have an east and a west. Let's talk about another person, Noel Hadley. My friend told me that he's all about the firmaments, and now he's talking about the 7 firmaments. Now, in my video, I have the 10 firmaments. Now, that's based off of the Book of Enoch from the Slavic Book of Enoch.
Second Enoch.
Yeah, but it's like a Slavic one. The Ethiopian one, I think says 7 or something like that. And I think like the Muslims and people will say 7. And then I think like the Bible people will say like, was it Paul or someone that was called up to third heaven he talks about. So these are the only things I see about the stuff. I don't know if it's 7, 10, 3, but I went with 10 because we were just using the Slavic Ethiopian Bible. Yeah, you're right. There's 3 Enoch books, but the one that I used was the Slavic one where it talks about Tevin, heavens. Now, Noel Hadley, now you're saying there's 7 firmament domes. So I just want to know. So you're saying that it's a dome over a dome over a dome over a dome. How does that's what you think? Like, or does it make more sense what I'm saying, that it's a flat plane over a flat plane over a flat plane over a flat plane? Okay, that's what it is. It's not a dome over a dome over a dome like Noel Hadley's putting out there. I don't understand like why this is, why people are sticking so much with this.
Well, it's that what you've just said there about plane upon plane upon plane. I'm sure I've seen ancient maps showing something like that before.
Yeah.
Don't the Norse have something similar? And they have
Yes.
they have middle like Midgard, and then they have the higher
Yeah.
realm, and it's like they're in layers, aren't they? Like flat layers on top of each other.
Yeah. And the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Mayans, all of them were showing these levels. They were all square and flat.
Mm-hmm.
They're not circle dome over circle dome. So what? Then the person in first heaven, they're like, there's someone here, and then there's someone on the hump, and then there's another person down here. No, that's not what it is. It's a flat plane, just like what we live on. It's a flat plane, and the next heaven's a flat plane, and a flat plane, and a flat plane.
Right.
It's just that simple to me.
On that, Vinny, let's get another voice in here.
Sorry, I'm calling out.
No, it's all right. It's okay. I've got somebody who's also sent me a message as soon as this went down. No, not something from yourself, saying I've got to talk about this. This is something
great.
You know, and it's another regular guest. It's the Hijacker, who I've had on a few times to talk about the Millennium Reign.
Yeah, he's good. I heard one of his shows.
Yeah, he wants to come on and discuss his take on all of this, and I said, all right, come on, we've got 10 minutes. Give your take for 10 minutes. So
okay, I'm going to get quiet.
I'm going to have to start giving people timers for this because we only have so much time. So let me just give him a call now, see if we can get him on.
Okay. Hopefully I didn't scare everyone away.
No.
I wonder what your audience is saying. Are they all calling me a shill?
You can go to the chat and find out, eh?
It's better I don't, because then I can just stay focused and not get thrown off track by all the attacks.
Hi, Jacker. Can you hear me? Has your mic been turned on? Oops, something's happening. Give it a second.
Okay. To the audience real quick.
So
the original word was rakia for the firmament. That means expanse.
One second. One second. Hi, Jackie. You're going to have to turn off the video in the background, if that's okay. You're going to have to mute the video you're playing in the background. And then pop your microphone back on.
Yeah. Am I coming through, Paul?
Yeah, you can hear me loud and clear. Vinny, I'm not sure you'll be able to hear him. Can you hear him?
No, I don't hear him.
Yeah, this is the issue because we're on different platforms here. Right, hi, Jack. Are you capable to jump on the Zoom call if I send you a link? Would that be possible?
Yeah, if it's as simple sending me a Zoom, yeah.
Yeah. I'll send you a Zoom link now. I'll just grab it.
In the Skype?
I'll send it to the Skype chat, and that should obviously send you straight through to where I need you to go. So I'll just do that quickly now. And if you click that, it should send you to maybe a browser when you click onto that browser and do it there. So I'm going into the chat now, and I will send you the link, and then we can all hear each other. I don't normally talk to Hijacker on Zoom, that's all. It's normally through Skype, so this should just sort that issue out. So I've sent him the link.
I appreciate you doing that for me.
And we'll wait for him to hop back in. So what were you saying there while I was trying to connect to Hijacker while we're waiting for him to join?
Real quick, I seen I had the word rakia written down. Because so many people like Tyler the Fittest Flat Earthers coming at me saying that rainbows prove that there's a dome, a curved dome. I don't agree with that. And curved dome, I feel like, is another simple new creation that they've made. Rakia, the original word rakia, that meant expanse. It didn't mean like a curved dome. Expanse is like a plane, man. Like that's what I'm seeing. Like if you break down the word rakia to expanse could mean a flat plane. It doesn't have to be a circle dome.
It's interesting. Again, I'm open to any model. I've heard.
That's why I appreciate you that you are open-minded.
I've heard a lot of models. I've heard many models. I know Casey from Enter the Stars would tell us it's shaped like a giant eyeball. Like that, and we're living on the pupil of it with inside the eyeball at the bottom. So it's kind of like a dome, but it's more like a snow globe. You know what I mean? And so, but then that will go against what your theory
like the concave Earth people.
Well, the concave Earth is it's an enclosed system model, but it's still a sphere. But you're on the inside of the sphere, looking up to the center. Now that's a different one because that's like pressure's keeping, not gravity pulling us towards the middle. It's pressure pushing us out to the edges. It's a different model again, and it's an interesting one. And I think this is a sad thing about the whole flat Earth movement. It made people lose their imagination, and it's kind of like it must be this flat circular disc that we have, and it's kind of, well, there are other options. There's like 20 other options actually. Why have we just suddenly discounted all these other possibilities? Because what we do know is it's not what NASA's telling us. And the annoying thing is I for some reason today I got recommended some random small, well, not small, it's like 6,000 subscribers. So he's growing. He seems like he's one of those channels that's getting bigger and bigger really fast. And he's an anti-flat earther, and he's just making video after video after video about why flat earthers are stupid. And this presentation he gave was He's taking pictures of like nebulas and galaxies and stuff like that himself. You know, he's saying, you can do this. NASA didn't fake them. I took this in my garden. You know what I mean? With this mobile thing and a camera. And you can get it to stay in the same place as the Earth moves. So it takes a picture of the same area and let more light into the camera. And then you can get these amazing images of nebulas and stuff like this. And it says, and he says, because space is real. That's kind of what he kept saying over and over again. And I'm like, come on, man. You're taking some pretty pictures of some of the damage in the firmament and you think that makes you clever and space is real all of a sudden. It's kind of like, why do you think that's millions of miles away? What if it's just really, really close and you're looking at a very colourful display of damage into a firmament of some kind? You know, it's kind of like the assumption that, well, it must be millions of miles away is where they kind of fall short. But you look at the comments and it is all these people saying things like, the flat Earth experiment should have put an end to this. You know what I mean? And it's kind of,
I told you that's what this was, and I knew
they're
this
clinging
was
to
coming.
it. Yeah, they're using it as their weapon. It's like a weapon in their arsenal now.
I wanted to get in front of this, so this didn't happen, but it's happened now, and now all of us flat earthers are gonna have to deal with this.
It seems like he's struggling to figure this out. Let me just send a message quickly on. Let's see what's going on. And let's check the chat as well while I'm at it.
Is the chat having fun? I hope you're all having fun.
Well, the problem is with this topic, it's always an extremely mixed bag. People hate discussing. I don't even like discussing this topic because of the absolute chaos it always ensues in the chat.
Yep.
People have really identified with this and made their entire personality about this one particular topic in many ways. And the cognitive dissonance and the fervor comes out, and it's kind of people get really angry. So I try not to talk about this that often for that reason, because
that's smart of you.
It's a stupidly divisive subject, and it's kind of like I really don't think the shape of the thing we live on is that important. A lot of people say it's the most important thing. It's what brought me to God and all this type of stuff. It's kind of like, well, you can get to God without knowing the shape of the earth, first of all. It's not like they're a necessity. I'm glad it worked for you. That's wonderful. But I think what's more important is our salvation and also our Savior and the kingdom that's going to be established on the earth. I don't particularly care about the shape of the thing. I care about the eternal kingdom that's going to come as a Christian. And I think maybe the non-Christians, flat earth types, might not see it that way. To them, it's like, it's just a mind-shattering paradigm, and there's nothing bigger than it, because they don't understand God or Jesus and his kingdom or the millennial range. You know what I mean? So they
just realized they've been lied to at like the highest level. Like they thought they were on a spinning water ball, and then they realized they've been lied to. And that's what I mean. It's easy to go down the route of, well, what is real? And just think that everything is a lie and everything you hear is a lie. And you don't know who to trust. And it's it's tough.
It is. It's a minefield out there when it comes to conspiracy, because there are. Look, I've seen them. There are people out there who are purposely there to lie to us and deceive us. There are channels that get created to fall. Like, that's their job.
It definitely seems that way. I just, I don't have proof for some of the people, so you
can't prove who it is. This is the problem. It's not really for us to figure it out. Some people are obvious, I think. Some people aren't so much, but it's kind of such a mixed bag.
Say,
go ahead.
When we first met, I told you I actually exposed a COINTELPRO agent live. That's what got me in trouble and thrown off everything in 2012. I exposed Anthony Hilder. That's Alex Jones's handler. This is a guy who worked with Ted Gunderson and all the people. He was the guy behind Jordan Maxwell, Alex Jones, all these people. His name is Anthony Hilder. I don't know. Did I tell you about this?
No, you didn't. That sounds like a whole other show, to be honest.
This was huge. I thought I brought it up to you like personally before I came on your show. But for people who don't know, I was part of We Are Change Connecticut. I started doing shows in 2011. The guy I was partners with, he was a big fan of Anthony Hilder, Alex Jones, and them. Here it is. I'm reaching out to this guy, Dr. Horowitz, to talk about like frequencies and this and that.
Ooh,
and all of a sudden,
sorry, one second. Sorry. Everyone else will be able to hear this too. I'm getting called through Skype. I think what the best thing to do, Vinny, is if you listen to the show while I talk to him, and then you at the end you can give your 2 cents at the end or something like that. I don't think I'm going to be able to get you on together. It says it's not it's not working for him. So Just listen to the show on YouTube while I'm talking to him, and then once we're finished,
I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute my mic and turn it on.
That's the best thing to do. So I'm going to get the hijacker on to share his 2 cents about this for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to try and get another guest on as well. So bear with me a second. I'm going to call him back. So you mute yourself and just listen to the video. Maybe get into the chat as well while you're at it. Right, I'm going to give him a call. I'm sorry for the volume, guys. I can't turn that annoying ring off. Hello, are we back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, am I coming through, Paul?
You are, yes, loud and clear. Yeah, don't worry about Zoom. Vinny's just going to listen to the show while we talk, because he's kind of co-hosting today, but if you can't get to Zoom, it's fine. We'll just give you your time now, Hijacker, to share what you make of this whole situation, because I know you're itching to tell your side of this and your 2 cents, and here's your opportunity. But as I did say there, Hijacker, I'm trying to get a few other people on, so I'm going to have to give you a timer here. I'll probably give you, how's 15 minutes sound?
Oh, that's plenty. That's more than enough. Yeah,
well, let's go.
More than enough.
Let's go then. Let's go. 15 minutes, Hijacker. You give your take on all this. What did you take from this whole thing? Your take.
Yeah, and then sometime later, maybe we can do like a whole show for an hour and 90 minutes, because mine's exhaustive. So this is where I'm at, Paul.
Go.
I'm probably the most radical of the millennial reign type of conspiracy theorist or believers, if you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I now believe, I'm like a literalist. In other words, I believe basically all of the words of Jesus. I believe exactly what the Bible says. And so I'm in that camp now. I throw out all the timelines. I actually disagree with most of the millennial reign believers in their particular timeline. And so this is where I'm at. So when you get to the book of Revelation and it comes into these monumental type of statements that just don't square with, it's like incomprehensible. You can't really comprehend it. Like when it says that all of the stars fall to heaven, and the book of Enoch says that the angels are the stars of heaven. I actually believe that now. I actually believe that when Christ came back, and he came in his 1,000-year reign, that there was like a radical, monumental change upon the whole earth. When it talks about, a third of all of the fish of the sea died, in the sea. I believe that now. I believe that there was like one sea. It says that there was like a massive earthquake, like never was and never will be. I believe that we were in the biblical times, all the way up to 70 AD, that the world was Pangea, and that it actually started to separate. Maybe it just started moving an inch an hour or whatever, but that's where the whole earth became separated.
I'm going to stop. We're going to stop you there, Hijacker, because yes, I too am on a similar vein to you with my own research, and so many of us as well. But that's actually a topic for another day. Today we're going to talk about the final experiment. Okay, so let's get straight to the point. Don't forget, you've only got about 10 minutes left here, so I need you to.
The final experiment.
Let's go on about the final experiment. Go.
Okay, so I do believe Jeranism and Witsit. I don't think they faked it. At first, I thought, that they took them, they landed in Antarctica, and they put them in a van or a bus, and they drove them to. It's like a loop. It's like a 10-mile loop. You land where the major aircraft land. Let's call that like the base. But then they go to where all the tents and, there's actually another base camp set up about 5 miles away. And then where they did their actual camera experiment was another 5 miles away. And so what I at first believed that, because I was hardcore, there's no way this could be possible, that they landed with the major aircraft. They put them in the buses, in the van, or the glorified pickup truck, van, whatever you want to call it. And then as they took them to the other place, they either hit them with sleeping gas or something. They knocked them out, and then they went into a dome type of enclosure in which they had them in sort of an artificial world. And then they did the same thing when they took them to where the cameras were at. I don't believe that anymore. I actually believe that there is a 24-hour sun. And so where I come down on this is that somehow, for whatever reason, God has designed, and I do believe, the AZ map, the circular type of map, but it's a circular world actually inside of a dome, inside of a square. So it actually is square. It talks about the earth being on the four pillars. But somehow, when the sun, and this gets into the book of Enoch, it talks about the house, the sun going through like 6 different portals or houses, as it goes back and forth in the as it travels back and forth from the North Pole all the way out to the outer rim. It talks about it going through 6 portals. In fact, I can actually see this. So you would think, okay, if it was a globe Earth, every day the sun would go down, like a minute and a half more. And then every day it would go like, it'd be like if it was going into winter, it'd be like, 6 o'clock, it would be going down. And then the next day it would be 6:01. And then the next day it would be like 6:02 or maybe 6:03. And then the sun would go down the next day, 6:04 and then 6:05. But it doesn't. It does that. But then all of a sudden you see these breaks in which in one day you'll see the sun go from, it's going down at 6:11. And then the next day, all of a sudden it jumps and it goes down like 12 minutes later or sometimes 9 minutes later. So it goes to, from 6:11, it goes down, and then all of a sudden it jumps up to 6:20 or 6:21. Well, why that big jump? Because it's going through a portal, and Book of Enoch talks about that. So the only thing I can figure of this 24-hour sun is that when it gets to the last portal and it goes through, it does something like that. Quiet. It gets into that Joe quiet. Somebody's here in a truck, and I got my dog.
It's all right.
That Joe Hamping model, where Mark Sargent and the others basically talk about the sun does something. The sun does something that it causes a refraction, and that's what's giving us the 24-hour sun. But I actually believe it's some kind of divine instrument, because here we are. We went through all of 10 years of flat Earth. All these people had the chance to debunk us. They all knew there was a 24-hour sun. And even when you go on to like old footage, it doesn't come through. So, and then all of a sudden, now we got this. And so the only thing I can think, Paul, is that God in his wisdom, he actually he decided to, like, okay, you don't want to believe it's flat. You don't want to believe the setup that I got. Okay, I'll tell you what. I am going to give you a portal type of, I don't know what you would call it, where you will be deceived. In other words, where it will appear to be a 24-hour sun. So when we actually see what we're looking at with the tape with the Antarctica experiment with Jeranism and with it, I think it's actually a projection. And so the only one that I think that's onto it is this Joe Hamping or whatever? I can't remember his name. To where he actually shows, yeah, it's a circular type of landmass that the sun goes around, but in this particular spot, it's in this portal, so that when it does go around, because of the nature of the dome and the visuals of the dome, it actually does do a projection, and it does go around in circles from a position that you're basically in.
I have seen that there are like models out there that people have been trying to make it work with the dome and the refraction, like you said, to give the illusion that there is a sun continuing. The whole portals thing you're discussing there, that's not dissimilar from what Vinny B, our previous guest, was just talking about. He obviously goes off the Enochian version, and that the sun does travel from east to west through differing portals, and then would go up and down the equinox, I suppose, to determine obviously the seasons and the time. And like you're explaining there, the sun will one day suddenly just drop a series of degrees very suddenly, as the seasons change. And it would make more sense that is happening because it's shifted through a portal suddenly rather than gradually tilted the Earth, as we're told is the mainstream way of doing it. Because I've had those moments during the day, when seasons transition, from summer to winter or winter to summer. It suddenly very quickly gets brighter. It's not gradual. It's kind of like, and we're told it's kind of every day gets a little bit more, But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like suddenly one day the sun is just way higher one morning. It's suddenly rising way earlier, suddenly, and it's and this is before the clocks change. I'm not just saying, well, the clocks change, so it feels that way. I mean,
if you actually take a look at the timetables of the sun coming up, the sun setting and the sun rising, you can actually go through those time clocks, and you'll see a jump. You'll see some of them, certain part of the year, it'll be 8 minutes. I think the most is like 12 or 13 minutes, an actual jump. And it just doesn't make any sense. But it does not do like, every day it's just another minute. Okay. If we were actually rotating around, the heliocentric model, you would see, okay, we're gradually turning. Every day is another minute and a half. We're tilting more and more, but it doesn't do that. There is a jump.
Yeah.
And it goes to these houses.
But I think it's good that we're looking for an alternative model. Like I say, that's what Vinny's saying. We need to find a new model. The old model doesn't work, and we have to. It never did work. It's too simplistic. And I think this portal idea is something worth us trying to figure out a bit more. And Vinny says it is a square map. Are you saying there's a circle in the square? I'm open to either or. Vinny thinks it's just a square.
Well, no, that's what portals. The Bible says. The Bible says it's upon a circle. In other words, the circle of the earth that is within a square, or the four corners. It talks about the four corners of the earth. Yeah. So so
you're bringing the circle of the earth into the four corners. That would be a circle within a square. It makes sense. Right. It makes. I get the thinking. Now I've only got you for a few more minutes because I have another guest, and it's time sensitive. He only has this time to do it in about 2 minutes. But just 2 minutes to close out here, Hijacker. What do you make of the whole final experiment itself and the backlash? Do you think these people are genuine? Do you think they are bad actors, or do you think they are people who may have been fooled with their reactions? What do you take of the whole thing at the end of it all?
No, I actually, Paul, I believe them. I actually believe. I don't think they're lying. At first, what I thought, I says, "Oh, this is a no-brainer." This is what I thought, Paul. They went to Antarctica. They landed at the peak of when the sun was down there. Then a private jet landed with like 3 NASA-type men in black also landed. They took them into one of the tents or one of the enclosures, and these 3 high-level NASA people gave Jeranism and the rest of the flat earthers a business card and say we're from NASA Special Operations. And oh, by the way, what you're about to see is going to you're not going to be allowed to mention it, and we're going to talk about your loved ones. We maybe even put them on a camera on film, and you're going to take either the silver or the lead. You're going to take the money, or real bad things are going to happen to you and your family, and you're going to be lucky to make it out of Antarctica alive. And, they basically sold out. They took the money. They kept their mouth shut and lied. No, I don't believe that. I believe they saw what they filmed. They saw, and it's just like one of these conundrums that God has actually placed there. And then the other model I came up with, because I'm a hardcore flat earther, and I still do believe totally that it's flat. You got 999 data points that it's flat, and then you got this one thing with the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, which flies in the face of it. But so basically, I thought, okay, well, it's a thermal pocket. Like we have a sun and a moon within our particular firmament that we call it. There's actually more land, and maybe they went to another thermal pocket where God was practicing, or he created, a thermal pocket with its own sun, and somehow that they were able to fly to, go out of our dome type and structure and went into maybe a smaller structure. And that's what we were actually looking at. I don't think so. I think this has to do with the portals, the houses, the what they call the gates, which goes through in the book of Enoch. But yeah, Paul. So anyways, sometime maybe we can do an hour or two show on my basic grand unifying theory. And basically what I believe now is that when it says that the angels, fell like fig trees, like figs to a ripened fig tree to the earth, that they actually did, and that angels actually helped build out our world, and that we were.
I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to stop you there. That sounds like a good talk for another show. Hijacker, email me. We'll get it sorted. I have another guest who I have to get on now. He's only got 10 minutes, so I'm going to get going. Okay, but thanks for sharing your thoughts there.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
No problem. We'll speak to you soon. Bye now. God bless. Okay. So there we go, guys. That was Hijacker's take on it all. So, everyone's got an opinion on this matter. Let's hear a few different takes. I've got another guest lining up with me now. He looks like he might need to rotate his camera. I don't know what's going on here. Let me just unmute him quickly. There we go. And if you could just unmute yourself, Chris. There we go. Chris, how are we doing? Can you hear me?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Paul?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I can't complain. I'm probably committing YouTube suicide talking about this topic right now, it seems, because everyone's got an opinion, and it seems like they're not liking mine. But this is just one of those topics I just need to get everyone's take on it so I can get a better understanding on where people stand with this. What do you make of this whole flat Earth experiment? What's your take on this, Chris?
I just thought it was really funny that they called it the final experiment. Like you could ever have a final experiment, and like right. just witnessing the sun in a certain location of the Earth would be the final proof that you need. That seemed a little bit ostentatious to me. It was a little bit over the top with that. And anytime I gave any attention to Will Duffy, I just got the big NO in my consciousness. It was just like, no, this dude isn't, this guy isn't anybody that I should pay attention to.
Well, he did do that really sus thing of on the pulpit saying it's okay to lie to people. The Bible says so.
Yep.
That was strange, wasn't it? That was I don't know the guy from Adam. I don't want to say anything about him. I've never followed his work. Like I said, I only heard about him through another podcaster who told me he just had him on as a guest, saying, "Oh, this guy Will Duffy is organizing a trip to Antarctica," and I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And then, bam! 1 month later, they're already there, and I'm seeing videos coming out saying, "We're in Antarctica, guys. It's happening now." And I'm like, "That was fast." Like last I checked, like I was explaining to Vinny, last I checked, this guy hadn't even got anyone from the flat Earth side to join yet. Like, and who's paying for all? He's paying for all this. Like, was this a GoFundMe or something? What happened here exactly? I don't know. It's confusing, but it's in my core immediately. I felt something is really off about all of this. Something is weird about it. But again, I'm like Vinny. I don't want to just call people shills. I don't want to just go out there and say these people are all bad actors out there to deceive us all. But something.
Yeah, well, I'm friends with Dave Weiss, and he smelled BS immediately. you can't make that claim. Like just the title of it, the final experiment. Like this right off the bat, there's no way that you can make that claim. So I applaud Dave Weiss for not, even though it was kind of in a way debunks the, what is it, azimuthal equidistant map of things, which his app actually uses that model. But in my mind's eye, I kind of appreciate the fact that he could smell BS immediately too, and kind of brush them off.
What do you think about the model yourself then? Where do you stand with the enclosed system model? Do you think it is the UN map, the circular disc, or do you have a different thing in mind?
No, I think the closest map that I've come across that makes sense to me is done from the group called Awake Souls on YouTube. Have you seen their channel?
I have not, no.
Yeah, Jason Laufenberg and Ronnie, I forget Ronnie's last name. There's two gentlemen out of Austin, Texas, and they have essentially a biblical model of the world, but it's based on this world being more on like a condensed hologram, a dipolar holographic model. And that model, to me, that model makes the most sense to me because it actually stays very consistent with how the Bible and how Enoch described this plane of existence, along with like what we observe. And so for me, that model also matches like back in the day when I studied a bunch of esoteric information from the East, like especially in the Raja Yoga circles. They're like Book of Enoch, Raja Yoga, this model, they're all kind of the same thing. It's essentially that this world morphs more or less to each one of our vantage points. Like I will never know what the world looks through Paul Staub's eyes. So we do have a consensus reality, like which is a biblical framework, but how we see the luminaries in the sky has everything to do with where we are geographically. And it's almost like the whole, I know this sounds really kind of out there, but it's not such a materialist way of seeing things. It's like it's almost like the render that is made for each one of us depends on our location of where we are along the hemiplane.
I think I call that the psychedelic model. That's kind of what I've always been on that level, that it's kind of, look, I think it's far more complicated than we can actually physically perceive. Yes. Like, and we're seeing like a 3D rendering of it, but it's like multi-dimensional and far more trippy than we can understand. Vinny, what do you have to say about that?
No, I agree. And, that's the same thing I've been trying to do. And like what Christopher was saying is the way I see the model that I've been trying to create. It's like I said in the beginning, it's more supernatural. We're talking about supernatural stuff that we're never going to probably be able to explain, like what the pillars are doing to the light and like how everything works. But to me, it seems pretty clear that it talked about corners in the Bible. The Book of Enoch is talking about portals from east to the west. Like the guy you had before, Hijack. That's another thing I brought up, Paul. I think even on your show, that was another one of my points is the sun is jumping through portals because, like you said, one day you'll wake up and it's like so much more sunlight came. It wasn't gradual. And to me, that was another big sign of this is a portal. It didn't just gradually, circle out more. It jumped into another portal. And the moon is the biggest giveaway to me, is the moon. Because you'll see the moon sometimes be in front of the sun, and then all of a sudden it'll be completely different in one day. Like in the southern hemisphere behind the sun. And I'm like, turtle, and that's the rabbit and the turtle and the hare. That's the story, is the sun and the moon.
Fair enough.
Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac-Man, sun and the moon. And it's more of a virtual reality matrix like that God created, and it's more supernatural and spiritual. It is your perspective.
Someone Leaving Babylon Madeline mentioned it a long time ago in the chat, so I just remembered mentioning it. I didn't want to bring it up, and it was kind of corroborated by Wendy as well, one of the moderators. But biblically speaking, God created the day and the night before the luminaries. So the luminaries are not necessary for there to be darkness and or light as well in this model, in the biblical model. Light is independent of the sun itself, though the sun obviously is a luminary that contributes more light. It seems like day and night is more of a encoded thing into the system, And even if the sun disappeared, there probably might actually still be light or something of a light to distinguish it from the night, in a sense. So if we're going to be biblical literalists in that sense, then there's something really trippy going on with this creation that, again, we will not be able to comprehend. And what I've described it, it's like a lot of the flat Earth community, especially like the non-Christian type, some of them are more humble than others. There's a lot of know-it-allism, and it creates this horrible toxic community of cult followers, because it's kind of like it's their way or the highway.
Agreed.
It has to be this model, and it's kind of, you argue against this, then you must be some kind of shill out there to shill for the globe or something. And it's kind of, I'm with you, Chris. I think it's a psychedelic model. Personally, I think it's trippy. Anything else you want to add? Go ahead, Chris. You've got the floor.
And it is very trippy. I mean, I've had the benefit of living on 5 of the 7 continents, like actually living there. No, 4 of the 7 so-called continents. And there are portals, like there's just different ways the luminaries show up in different areas. And one of the things I saw that it was probably the quickest video I ever saw taken off YouTube, was in 2017, when the flat Earth was really like cranking and everybody was putting in their 2 cents. There were 3 agnostic scientists on 3 different continents. I think one was in Europe, one was in North America, and one was in Australia. And they were actual solar scientists, and they had those telescopes that follow and track the sun. And their experiment was that they were going to track the sun for 1 full year from each continent, and then they were going to triangulate all the data, throw it into a supercomputer, and give the real model of the Earth. And when they did that, they all became believers of God, like full on, because what that modeling showed was that essentially the sun was a personal sun. And the second I saw that video, it confirmed what I was being taught in the Raja Yoga circles, where like essentially we have this center column of energy that they call the Sushumna. The Christians would call it the silver cord. It's like what attaches us to the Father. And that energy is the access mundi. And relative to us, the render, like the psychedelic render, like you're saying, Paul, it's actually everything is bending towards us, because our Father is very graceful to us. He loves us. So he wants us to see the fullness of his glory. And depending on where we go in the geography of the world, that glory is shown from a slightly different vantage point. But I think the one thing that they were able to prove out in that following the sun on every continent was that they were able to see that if you're at ocean elevation, at sea level, there's always a 13-mile arc, no matter what. There's a 13-mile arc. And then what they also showed was that corpuscular rays are the biggest proof that the sun is a personal thing for each one of us. And the reason why is you could have somebody on one side of a lake see the corpuscular rays, the rays of light that go through a cloudscape. Those light rays will come towards you, but you could be standing on the other side of the lake and it not be such a big lake. And depending on where that light is relative to the clouds, the angles of the rays will be coming directly at you on the other side of the lake. Mm-hmm. And that's impossible with even if they you have some people that believe in the pressurized pizza dome model, where we have this hard fast barrier above us and that there is just one point source of light. What their modeling shows is that there is not one point source of light. And that to me is really magnificent. And then that makes a lot of the things in scripture make sense. Like when they said the sun went away, it wasn't a helium gas giant that just disappeared for, how many ever days that they said it did, or it reversed its direction in the sky. That was actually pointing to something on a much more, I guess you would say, local level relative to the people that saw it.
Fascinating stuff. Much longer do we have you for, Chris? I know you've got to get going because you've got guests coming around.
No, I thought this was an hour later, so you have me for a while. I have time.
You can stick around, that's fine. I'm going to try and get our next guest in. Joe, I've sent you the link if you're listening. You can try and hop into the Zoom call now. I'm running a little bit behind. I did say I'd be getting him on maybe like half an hour ago, but you know how these things go. You know how these things are. They just trail on and on and on. But yeah, we'll try and get a bit of a four-way conversation going here, and then maybe open up to comments as well and questions from people to see what they have to say.
Is this live on YouTube right now?
It is live. We're going live. We're doing it live. I'm just going for it. I'm winging it. I don't have a script. I don't have a plan. I just got some last-minute guests all slapped together, and we're just going to have a good time. Let me just quickly check the chat here, what's going on. We've got Jennifer Merrifield became a member. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. We got some regular faces in here. I had to put the chat on slow mode because the people were getting hot and heavy in there, getting really angry.
Good, I like that. I like hearing that.
So there's a 5-second stopper on everyone's comments now. What do you make of all the backlash of all of this, Chris? While I've got you talking here, what do you think of all the drama?
That's why I'm in my edition, because I wanted you guys to see my breath coming out.
No vape gate for you.
Yeah. It's 12 degrees, so it's slightly warmer than what it was in Antarctica, and you can see my breath, so that nobody in the future could say that this was a green screen behind me.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I don't trust you.
I think most of it's pretty silly. I think people, like you were saying earlier, they get idols. I mean, humans make idols out of things, and they get really disappointed when they've made an idol out of a model, and then that model doesn't prove out, or at least in their mind, they don't think that, such and such evidence doesn't prove out their model, and then they get all like frustrated and pissed off at the people that might point to it. And it's just, I'm not surprised by this. I have a few years under my belt, and I've seen this happen in multiple different, venues. And so for me, like, I don't really pay attention. Like, I've spoken directly to Witsit. I think he's a good dude. I've never talked to Jaron. I don't know him. I don't really follow any of his stuff, so I can't. I have no, skin in that game. But overall, like, I interviewed a friend of mine that did Antarctic tours. He did it for a dozen years. And this is back in 2016, like back when people, like, nobody was really talking about the flat earth in earnest yet. And there's environments where it gets so cold that you won't see breath. Like, it's so dry and so cold that it will literally pull that moisture right off your, like, as close to your mouth as possible. So I think they went. I don't think that they didn't go. Like, I saw enough there. To me, it was just kind of silly because, like, there was so much video. Like, I remember seeing BBC documentaries when I was
That's
a
what
kid
I'm saying. Yeah. Chris,
about the 24-hour sun.
Is I was watching scientists go out there to drill into lakes just to, like, research the water in Antarctica.
Yeah.
And they're sitting out there in the tents with the 24-hour sun.
Yeah.
People could read about the explorers in the late 1800s, early 1900s that were going out there talking about a 24-hour sun. Like, that's why, to me, like, I didn't even need this to happen, but I think it's good, like I said, because hopefully now we can move forward, and we could also see who are the people that aren't about the truth and they're just about selling an app or doing whatever. I consider Dave a friend. I've done a lot of things with Dave. I don't know if you know, but Dave told Witsit and them that he believes them. So, Dave, I think Dave's legit. He's just like, oh, make me a model. And I'm just like, why don't you work with me and we'll make one together? But they just, it seems like they just want something simple. That Joe Hanvey thing that Hijack was talking about, that model to me is a joke. I'm sorry. That one that Dave and everybody ran with 2 days later, after you discredited 2 days later, you show some guy Joe Hanvey's video. The thing that he did is showing a reflection from the north to the south. That would not create different constellations, and they still have to arc towards the south, which his model does not do. So his model is not correct.
So you say it's more like a damage control thing, that kind of
It is damage control for Dave and Eric and these people because they don't want to admit that they could be wrong, I guess. While all of us are fine saying we could be wrong. We could be wrong about things. We've been wrong about a lot of things. We try to get it right.
And I have to say, like, I've been really pressing this for a long time. We live in a spiritual world that's pretending to be material. It's pretending to be
exactly.
So all these materialist paradigms where it's like, no, it's this hard, fast thing. It's this solidity. It's this, and this. I'm like, that doesn't actually match my experience. And it doesn't actually match a lot of people's experience. So for me, you know, I had no qualms in the quote unquote failure. And to me, it also didn't move the needle at all with, you know, thinking that the globalist or the globe model was the truth. Like
the globularists. Anyway, Joe, you're sitting quietly there. You're sitting pretty. What's your take on all of this? Come on, fill us in. Because I know you broke the vape gate yourself. You're the man, you know. What's going on?
I certainly didn't break it. I guess it was King Nico's video that I used. Yeah. So I'm going to come out and say it. I think these guys are shills. I did not. I don't consider myself a flat earther. I've never called myself that. I believe in biblical cosmology. So I was not that aware of this whole final experiment until just very recently. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know why it was a problem on the flat earth model because that's about how much I cared about this subject. So I had no idea who Jaron was. I've heard of Whitsitt. I've seen some clips of his debates, and I thought he was really good, and I heard he was a Christian. So I was like, okay, cool. But then after I saw the Vape Gate, that was the thing that was really troubling me the most. Was like, I saw the King Nico video, and it really did look like he faked his breath. And you know, so the thing is like I've not gone on record saying I believe the whole thing was faked. I'm not sure. But I mean, obviously, this is the kind of stuff that makes me question how much of it is real, because I don't think that in this community that we tolerate lots of funny business like that. So, like, if these same guys are picking apart every little NASA video, well, they should obviously have expected to be picked apart. And if they make any effort to deceive it in any kind of way, well, like I've said, in this community, I mean, that's not tolerated. I mean, like, I don't, you know, I wouldn't expect anyone to forgive me for doing that. You know, maybe like one day, but you know, I'm not saying, but like, I understand that in the space we're in, our reputation could be, you know, just a pivotal point. Like you could be just, your reputation could be destroyed with a little thing, like a little lie. A white lie can be a big lie in this kind of space because like, you know, because the stakes that were how high the stakes were as far as like, I mean, because literally how I really found out about this was, a guy I used to be kind of friends with on TikTok, he started sending me all these messages. Flat Earth's been debunked. And I'm like, whoa, you know, and I was kind of like, what are you talking about? And then, so I remember so my first experience with this was like, this is being used as a weapon. And then it was kind of like, well, why would Whitsitt go in under this thing if called in the final experiment, if he doesn't believe, if he sees the sun 24 hours, that it's the final experiment. So that's when I was like, so obviously right there, I thought, well, he's not stupid. So if you're going to be, if you go see the 24-hour sun and he doesn't have an answer for why he could see it, to me, it's kind of like you're setting the whole community up because it's like, he doesn't have a lot to gain. He's got a lot to lose because the Globers, whether the sun's set or not, they were never going to see a setting sun. You know, we already know, like we already knew that they would not see a setting sun debunking the globe. So if he does not have an answer that day,
recording in progress.
You know, you'd at least think like that if he went down there, you would have consider, what if I see a 24-hour sun?
You know, can I just jump in too to add to what you're saying? Sure. Is I agree with you. That was the first thing I was thinking is like, how could you go and into a thing called the final experiment, knowing that whether you see it or not? And my answer to you is, I think that Whitsitt literally had really thought that there wasn't going to be a 24-hour sun. I think they were too arrogant. Now, maybe I'm wrong and these people are shills and I'm giving them the benefit of doubt. But I think that they were just so arrogant that they literally, and that's what he even said after it. I don't know what show I heard him on. Maybe it was Jaron or Nathan Oakley. And he was like, I was expecting to see the sunset. I didn't think that we were going to see a 24-hour sun. So maybe he was just, too cocky, in his head, he was convinced it wasn't going to be there, and he got caught in it. And I think it's like Christopher said before, they've known about this for a long time. Why did they wait so long? That's the other thing. It's like they were waiting, I feel like, and now all of a sudden, boom, they dropped the hammer.
Yeah, I think the thing that was really troubling was like, okay, so the Vape Gate thing, I really had a problem with, especially when I played a clip. He was on this guy Flatzoid's channel, and he was explaining how he unexpectedly found the vape in his bag. And then he quit vaping, but he just decided to use it while he was down there. And of course, to me, I was saying, like, as somebody, as a father, having a teenage daughter, it's like, would anybody who have kids ever accept that explanation from their kids? So this is not being biased. It's just like, I've heard those kind of stupid lies before, and it's like, it's like the whole I was born at night, but I was not born last night. Stop trying to gaslight me. I know that's stupid. So like, it's almost like that. It does feel like, okay, he was there. Let's just say he was there. He did that thing because he was getting frustrated with people who were like saying you're not there. And he's like, you can't see your breath. Fine, I'll show you some breath. Here it goes. He could have really been there and really done that. But now he's I feel like he's pushed himself in this corner where he could not admit that now because he's stacked lies upon lies. I mean, because I will say this, I don't trust him. And I think the one thing that I would say, the main reason I wouldn't trust him at this point is I learned a little bit more about Jaron. Like in the past couple of days, I was watching some videos about him, and I was like, this guy, put it this way, if you're in this community and you hitch your wagon to that guy, all right, I automatically don't trust you, because this guy does seem like a grifter to me, because like the idea that you're going to be this prominent flat earther, when he like debunked the flat, he was used to debunk the flat earth, I guess, on that one movie in 2018. And then he does it again now. And like the idea that he's doing all these flat earth experiments saying there's no curve. And then he goes down and sees this observation, and now there's a curve. Now all the things he ever thought before are not real. Like, to me, that, like, again, that is kind of like, that seems like a grift. It seems like that Pastor It's Okay to Lie says, hey, got all this money, you want to go on this trip? Is flat earth profitable for you? Oh, it's not. Well, obviously, I know you're of low moral character, so how about all this money to switch sides? And it's like, and it makes the whole community look stupid. And then Witsit's there saying, we were really there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like he attached himself to people who obviously we can't trust them. And then he does this dumb thing. And now I think he's kind of like, oh, well, dang, now I'm coming back and saying this does not prove the globe. But yet here I am. And now it's like, I don't know. I mean, it feels like, he's at some point, like, guilty by association is sort of fair. I mean, I saw him kind of floundering on Twitter, still trying to defend certain things. And I really do feel bad for him, because it does feel like that maybe at the end of the day, he's a good guy, but like he made some poor decisions. And and that's why I was saying, like, he's not stupid. So you didn't know that you could be used like this? Because I mean, that's what it really feels like. Is like here's a flat earther that everyone likes, and then you're going to go down there and you're going to be used, and then eventually they're going to prop you up. They're going to prop you up just to knock you down, and then the whole community looks dumb.
Yeah,
good point.
Absolutely. Well, I've got another guest in as well. I'm going to try to get as many opinions on this as I possibly can. I've got Connor from the Cult of Con with me. He's been itching in the chat to give his 2 cents, and I managed to get a link to him to get on. So, Connor, can you hear us? Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me all right, Paul?
Good enough. I think you're using your microphone on your headphones.
I'm literally like at work with the headphones on.
Okay, well, try your best to give us your take as quickly as you can, because I am running out of time as well. So let's go, Connor. What have you got for us?
Sure, let's make it quick. I'm taking the trash out, so I got a second. All right, well, the whole thing is there's a lot to unpack, but I will say I'm just going to leave this alone for a second. When it comes to this whole, like, big picture of the world thing, I tend to look for things that are similar, like what can we associate with? And for one, I tend to think that since people are made of a large percentage of water and a large percentage of the earth is covered in water, and then the Bible itself speaks about waters above and waters below, I tend to think water is a good basis for us to look at when we're thinking about how the world really works and what it really looks like. Now, obviously, we know water always finds its level. That's one of the number one proofs for the FE cosmology worldview. However, water also has a tendency to take a round shape in the form of like bubbles and droplets and things like that. And so because of that, I tend to perceive that the world is in fact round. And of course, I know the hijacker did say that in the Bible it says that he's seated above the circle of the earth. So we know that it's round. And I wanted to make one kind of specific point about that and say that the idea of the earth being square because it has corners it's a good point, but I would also argue that if you took like a pizza and you cut it into 4 pieces, there would be 4 corners right in the middle, dividing each of the 4 quadrants into 4 separate sections. So although the pizza is round, it still in fact has 4 corners. So there's that. And that's just if you're looking at it from like a 2-dimensional kind of top-down perspective. But then when we look at it 3-dimensionally, it's like I said, we have essentially a water-based universe, and water tends to find its shape as a round ball, especially when there's a suspension of air inside of it in the form of like a bubble, which you can recreate that with soap bubbles, and even regular water will form bubble. It's not necessarily as beautiful as like a soap bubble, but you know what I mean. It's a repeatable experiment that you can make even on a very small scale. So my theory is just that the world is kind of a combination of everybody's theories. You have a hollow center. There's likely a Sheol component and underworld. You have a plane of the physical terrestrial realm itself, but then you also have the heavens stretched out as though it were a tent, which is also biblically supported. So I would say, is there a perfect model for the cosmology? No. But I think that if we kind of put these pieces together, it seems like each separate kind of take on the situation has some validity to it. And it seems like what our model needs to look like is some combination of all of them. So there's probably an element of it has flatness to it. It has roundness to it. It has a spherical nature, and all of those components have to come together to create the final model, because we can't deny that the world does have those attributes. And then as far as the experiment goes, I will argue that I think that it's possible that there are more than one, like what we consider to be our world with our sun and moon. We live in what could be described as one of these 4 quadrants. Like if you were to divide your pizza into 4 corners, our world, the UN map, I call it the circle. That's the prison that we all live in. That's only in 1/4 of this world. So, and that's of course based on the Vibes of Cosmos plasma moon maps, which I invite everyone to check out just for their own personal reference. It's not necessarily factual, but it's something to check out. Anyway, with that being said, I think it's possible that there are other duplicate similar cosmos within the greater world. So we have our sun going around in its circle and our moon, and they have their own path. And I think that when people go to the southern centers, I guess it wouldn't be a center, it'd be the outer rim of our circle. You potentially are coming close to the outer rim of another circle. And that's why you can have a 24-hour sun. It's probably not something that happens every single day. It's probably not something that happens all the time year round, but there are probably ways that people with the type of powers that be that control our world could easily know, and they could send their little party down to have their shill experiment, and then happen to be there the one time where our sun goes by and then the other one goes by, and you just never see darkness for 24 hours. Totally possible. And that has basically no impact on the flat cosmology or biblical cosmology, because, you know, when people say there can only be one sun or one moon because the Bible says there'll be a light to mark the day and a light to mark the night, people don't understand that there can be 2 types of light, that they aren't necessarily forced into being single entities. You know, in Enoch, it does talk about the gates and the sun going to gates. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Enoch also talks about multiple entities coming and going from these gates, and that there's different responsibilities for that, that it's like an angelic job to be the light bringer. Now, I would have to look more into that.
He talks about chariots pulling the sun. They talk about angels but I never seen anywhere where he talked about more than one sun.
Maybe I'm
wrong.
making that up. No, you're probably right. I might be making that up. But I think that it's something we should consider, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen the experiments about moonlight, but they do, a couple of different people have done this, and the videos are pretty popular on the internet now, but people recording moonlight and the shadow of moonlight and noticing that the actual beam of the moon creates a cold light, and it actually draws temperature off the surface of what it's coming in contact with. So the sun is very much the opposite of that. We know that the sun has a heating effect, that thermal transition that it does when it makes contact. So I would wager, and this is just my conjecture, but it's my theory, that there are two types of light. There's a light for the day and a light for the night, but I don't think they're limited to single sources. I think there are potentially multiple things. And we have to do a deep dive into this, because you guys may have heard of the whole terra infinita concept. But if not, I haven't done a lot of research into it myself, and we'll probably do a deep dive on my channel pretty soon. But, there are people that believe that there are like further domes and further places, like other realms that fit within the same general plane, but are separated by, and of course, I don't necessarily know much about it. But it's something to look into.
I actually believe in that. I think there's lands outside of this. I think the book of Enoch, he talks about seeing land outside of this place. He even talks about going so far that there's no more even like sun or anything. It's just like a wasteland. So he's definitely talking about land out there.
Me and Joe talked about this, didn't we? We were talking about
really
outer space. Joe, do you want to pick that one up and roll with that one?
Yeah, I believe the Prague clock model. I think that I'm not sure exactly how it all works, but I think that Prague clock it kind of makes too much sense that wherever the circuit of the sun would go, you would have light and you would have warmth. And then outside of that, you would have darkness and potentially more lands, but that we couldn't really get to potentially. But yeah, like outside of that, is there other light sources and things like that? I mean, I've theorized that maybe the camp of the saints is outside of here and the light is Jesus somewhere else. So
that's what I say.
Because that's why I don't really subscribe to the AE map either, because I was saying like that. Yeah, because that doesn't really, the Prague clock, I think that makes sense. It's like, because you're seeing the zodiac kind of turn around a certain part of the earth, and then there's a greater realm here, and the Bible does not limit how big the earth is. It actually kind of makes it seem like it's really, really big. How far is the ends of the earth? How far is the ends of heaven? I mean, it's probably something that's not easily to define. So if we could get to it easily, I don't think it's the end. I think that there's more past it.
I agree.
Definitely.
Well, there we go, guys. We've solved it.
Don't we all?
We finally solidarity.
We figured it out. We now know what the model is. Right. Well, we've got 10 minutes left, guys, because I do have to go to a members only live after this. Anyone's welcome to stick around for that if you want to. It's just going to be more chilled out, more intimate, answering people's questions. But I do want to open this up for just the last 10 minutes to anyone in the chat if they have any questions or any topics they want us to bring up surrounding this concept. Let's keep it narrow to this particular topic, because we're all a broad bunch here. We all talk about many things, but this final experiment, does anyone have any final questions they want to ask for anyone here at all? Get them in now. Now's your chance, because like I said, I literally only have 10 minutes left. Do any of you guys have anything particular about this you want to bring up that while we're waiting for questions coming that I may not have brought up or we may not have mentioned during this show? Do you have any hot takes that you've just been sitting on, anything of the sorts? Anyone, guys?
Well, I've been saying that I'm going to be releasing my podcast with Jason Laufenberg of the Awake Souls, and his whole holographic model that's, like I said, biblical. What's incredible about it is that he's also mapped. He's taken the coordinate system that we use for travel, and he actually plotted it. He put it in a 3-dimensional SketchUp model. And just to show that we're told that coordinate system is the equivalent to a sphere, to a globe. And what was crazy for me when I saw his model is it actually ends up looking much more like a football. And that football, to me, because I build domes and I build lancet arches, and I put those lancet arches in a dome. Well, what's crazy about a football, if you were to take a Vesica Pisces, and this is relevant to the to the age of Christ, you know, us being in the age of Pisces and Jesus Christ being the prominent, you know, bearer of light, the prominent consciousness. Is like, if you take a Vesica Pisces, which is 2 circles, and you overlap them, you end up coming up with a double lancet arch. If you spin that on its vertical axis, you come up with something that looks like a football. Well, that's what the coordinate system that we're given to travel around the world, that's what it actually maps out to. And Jason shows this. Like,
have you ever heard of the UTM? You ever hear the UTM, the military grid maps? Because that was my understanding, is that's what they all use, which is all squares.
Well, it is squares, but when you actually take the distances and you start to measure the distances over land and then plot that, that's when you come up with this crazy given latitudes, right? Distances with the given latitude. So if you're saying, okay, the latitude is this and the longitude is this relative to the distance to this latitude and this longitude, and you were to map that, it ends up looking like a Vesica Pisces spinning on its vertical axis, which looks like a football.
Trippy.
Which to me, as soon as I saw that, that made me think of the Christ fish. You know, like, at least in North America, we get this, like, a lot of people, to show their Christianity, they'll have this. It's a Vesica Pisces that has little extensions on the end to make it look like a little fin on the back. And this is a representative of Jesus. And so to me, that was like pretty cool. That the model, like, if you're to actually look at this from a materialist paradigm and you were to model it from a materialist paradigm perspective, it actually ends up being a 3-dimensional model of that Jesus fish, which I thought was kind of cool.
Fantastic. Well, I think I need to see this work. I'm gonna have to watch that podcast to visualize what you're talking about here, because that sounds way above my head right now. It's like I'm trying to visualize it. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds complicated. I need I'm a visual guy. I've got questions are coming in. The first one I got is quite a common question for people who are just getting into this. Why would they lie about the shape of the Earth? So we've got a newbie here who's asking this question, it seems. Anyone to quickly cover that, or shall I just go for this?
Yeah, it's to make you feel insignificant. It's to make you feel insignificant. You're a small speck of sand. You're a monkey on a ball. There's so much more. You're not important. And it also, to me, discredits the Bible and God. Because the Bible and everything is clearly talking about this is all made for us. It's all a small place for us. The only thing that's here is us.
I think that's one take, to discredit the Bible, to obviously invert what God explained as an enclosed system, making it a vast infinite system. I think to forward certain agendas as well. Once you
aliens.
Exactly. Once you're
aliens.
Once space exists, aliens can exist, which means you can cover up
aliens,
demons, and whatever else manifests from the other realm. Now we have an alien explanation. And also, it helps fuel another lie, the evolution theory and lie. Because it's the idea that, everything is just forever expanding and evolving and changing, and it takes millions and millions and millions of years. You can add these vast time scales to everything. It props up many other lies, which all started to appear around the 1800s in particular.
Yes. Right, what about, Psalm 19:1 says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament is his handiwork. Mm-hmm. It kind of makes sense that if you knew you lived under a dome, there would be no denying that a creator put that there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I do think that, very interesting. Werner von Braun put that on his tombstone. Famous NASA, German from the 30s, Operation Paperclip. Was he saying it was a psyop all along? I think that he was.
I think so. I've got another. I've got another question here. Was there really a storm that made the TFE guys have to leave Antarctica earlier than planned? I didn't know about this. Was there a storm that made them have to leave? Was that true?
I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, I heard that. But that was the excuse why they didn't get like more filming or something like that. They were saying that a bad storm was coming in. I guess there was a storm before that, and basically that day was like this day where there was no clouds and they were actually able to do it.
What about the scientists who were there permanently? Do they get to go? Or do they have to?
Well, interestingly enough, though, if there was this bad snowstorm, isn't it interesting? I didn't bring up the picture, the shirtless picture. that if you look at the 2016 picture and the picture that they're posing all checkerboard like in front of it, it's the exact same snow coverage on that mountain. And I think have you ever seen that?
No.
Yeah, there's a picture that shows them doing the shirtless pose, and it's like literally black shirt, white guy without a shirt on. 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 Eventually, I think it goes to black, and then there's like a girl wearing blue. But I mean, it's like pretty obvious. And they're standing in front of that mountain at Union Glacier. And if you look at the snow coverage on the mountain, it is identical. And it was almost so close that I said, maybe they photoshopped the 2016 picture to make it look more like the one, because I thought there's no way that it could be that identical and be real. That's my take. And also, yeah, again, like I know Paul, not having to tell Paul anything, that Masonic symbolism with the shirts off. It's like why would you do white, black, unless you're trying to say,
well, yeah.
I guess it would have been too. I guess it would have been too obvious if they would have done this.
Maybe. You're gonna get screenshot for that, you know.
I didn't put it all the way to my eye. Oh yeah. Whatever. They already say it. So.
You've given them the fuel. You've given them the fuel. That's it. Right. Well, so on that then, if I can summarize quickly, Joe thinks they're all shills. Vinny B is giving them the benefit of the doubt, though they could be shills, but he seems to think maybe they're just stupid instead. And Chris is saying, nah, it's all a psychedelic model. Everyone's wrong. So there we go. That's a good mix. I like it.
It's probably a mix of all that. Yeah, I can buy that.
It's a bit of everything, and I am forever the fence sitter when it comes to this topic, because I don't care about the shape of the earth as much as most people do. I think what's more important is the kingdom of God and what happens while we're on this thing and what we do with our time here on the earth, not fussing and obsessing and becoming a cult member over what it's shaped like. So that's my take on all of that, and I'm going to have to end the show here, guys. This is now going to go over to a members only live chat. So if you are a member, come join us, ask your questions, let's have a talk. If any of you guys here want to stay and stick around for that, that's fine. If not, you're not obligated to. I'm not paying you, so you know, it's up to you what you want to do.
Wait, what?
That's right.
Ciao, gentlemen.
That's it. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate it. Excellent.
I can hang out for a few. I've got a few minutes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, me too.
Right, so guys, this one's ending. God bless. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.